Mantour Ministries presents the Mantour Guy Podcast. We may talk about football. We could mention bacon. We might reference Rocky movies. We'll probably discuss the Mantour conferences, but we'll definitely talk about how to grow in our walk with God. Here's your host, the Mantour Guy, Jamie Holden.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Mantour Guy Podcast. We're so happy to be back with you after so many weeks of breaking for our new office construction. I'm Jamie Holden, the Mantour Guy, and I'm so glad you decided to listen to us once again today. Well, like I said, we're coming fresh off of our construction project, and then when we started, I promised you we'd have a new podcast this week. Being honest with you, our construction project is not finished, but I'm a man of my word, so I went ahead and recorded this podcast for you guys here today. Moving forward, next week, we're unfortunately going to have to do one more round of under construction best of episodes. Then we're going to take a week off for Labor Day, and then starting September, we should be moved in and ready to record new podcasts inside of our new office space and studio. But it's been an exciting month. We've gotten a lot of work done. It's just taken longer than we thought. As you can probably hear in my voice, all the paint and all the fumes has got my asthma going insane. But God has been so good and so faithful, and the new office space is looking amazing, and we're so close to being done. We just aren't quite there yet anyways. But anyways, I promised you guys a new podcast this week, and that's what I'm going to deliver. And what I want to share with you today is I want to share with you an exciting opportunity I had in the middle of all of this construction work we've been doing. Even as the offices were being built, we were still going out every weekend doing ministry. And on one of the weekends we went out, I had the extreme honor of going into the Federal Correctional Institution in Laredo. It's a federal medium security prison, and I had the honor of going in with my good friend, Pastor Walt Smith. And we've been donating books to this prison for years, over the years now, probably about 3 or 4 years, to the men inside this prison with our Mantour Challenge that we do every year. And I was so happy to get the chance to go in and meet the men and interact with them and just experience my first time going inside of a prison. And I drove in on Sunday morning with the room project money just been really tight. And so we decided not to stay in a hotel. We drove in with Pastor Walt. I spent 6 hours in the prison with him and the men, and then I drove back home the same day. So it was a really long, really tiring day, but guys, it was such an amazing experience. I have to share it with you. As I said, this was my first time going into the prison, and being completely honest with you guys, leading up into the days leading into it, I was really nervous, especially the day before. I felt a lot of nerves, a little bit of fear. But I decided to pray to God about it, try and work through the fears, ask Him to help me. And on the actual day I went into the prison, that day when I woke up, I had no fear. I had such a peace, and all the nerves were gone. And as I drove in that day, I just had such a tremendous sense of peace. And I knew God was in this, and it was what God's will was for me in this ministry. And we went into the prison. The first service we had in the prison was inside the prison facility, inside the prison walls in their prison chapel. And we had about, say, 60 to 75 men in the service. And to be honest with you guys, I didn't honestly know what to expect, but I was just blown away by what I experienced in that service. First of all, this service had some of the best worship that I've ever experienced, and it was actually led by the inmates. They had their own instruments, they had a band, and guys, this band rivaled any worship team we've had at a Mantour conference. They were so good. I honestly wish they could have come and played at every Mantour we do. They were that good. And as they led the worship, the men, they just sang out with such passion. Honestly, when I went in there, I expected most of the guys there were there just because it would look good on their prison record, for just reasons like that. But the guys, they sang out with passion, and they were worshiping God, hands raised. It was some of the best worship I've ever experienced. And they led this one song, and as the worship team led the song, I sat there and I listened to it, and I read the words on the screen. And the song ministered to me so much. And I leaned over to Walt and I said, "Walt, what's this song?" Because I'd never heard it before. And he had never heard it before either. And it turned out that one of the inmates in the prison had actually written this song. And it was one of the most beautiful worship songs I'd ever heard. And it truly touched me and ministered to me. It was it needs to be recorded and released. Everybody needs to hear the song. It was so good. And then next thing up was one of the inmates was being transferred to another facility the next day, and he shared a parting message to his fellow brothers and the prisoners. And as he spoke, this guy was amazing. And as I was sitting there listening to him, I leaned over to Walt and said, good luck following this guy. I mean, he was so powerful and so passionate. And, he just had such a powerful, passionate message as he encouraged his brothers to continue standing firm in their faith and to continue standing together and to continue diving into God's word and becoming everything God created them to be. Honestly, it was kind of like listening to Apostle Paul in the Bible, how he would share with other inmates. The guy just had such a heart and a power and a passion for God, and his message was just so on fire and so biblically correct and accurate. I mean, I really did feel bad for Walt having to go next, but honestly, I was the one to go next. It wasn't even Walt. I was given a chance to share a few minutes with the men. I shared about 5-10 minutes with them, and I kind of just built on what the inmate had shared before. I kind of shared a message about, how men, we need to be, how, we all kind of strive to be physically fit, and we train, and we work out, and we keep ourselves spiritually fit, but God's calling us to be spiritually fit, not just physically fit. And how we need to pray and read the word and continue working together and growing together as men in the prison. They need to continue kind of like having their own spiritual training montage, kind of like Rocky always has like the training montage before he gets into the fight, or he knows when he gets in the fight he's going to be ready for it because he's trained and he's pushed his body to the point that he knows whatever he faces in that ring he can gain victory from and he'll overcome it. And that we need to do the same thing spiritually, to become so trained and so equipped with God and God's word and know God and his word so much that no matter what the enemy throws at us in the ring of life, we can face it and deal with it and know we have victory because we've put in the time, we've put in the effort. And it went really well. The prisoner had spoken before me, and the men were they soaked up every word that I shared and every word that Walt shared. That's what impressed me the most. These men were so spiritually hungry. They ate up every word we gave them. And they were just so hungry and so passionate. They wanted all of God that they could have. And honestly, I was blessed just to be there with men that had this hunger for God. It was their life. It was everything to them. And they knew that they had made mistakes in their life, but they also had realized that in God's eyes, they weren't inmates. They were his sons. And no matter what anybody else thought of them, they were God's sons. And you could just see this hunger and this gratefulness and thankfulness to God for everything he had done to them, that they just wanted to serve him. And it touched me so much. And, after the service, I was able to share with the men and Walt shared. And then I got the honor of praying with some of the inmates and talking with some of them. And a lot of them told us how much the books that we had donated to them through the Mantour Challenge had helped them and how grateful they were. And I was so touched and so humble that some of these men, they even asked if they could pray for me. I mean, I was there that day to minister to them, and they wanted to minister to me, and that touched me so much. And like I said, what surprised me and touched me the most about the service was the passion and then the hunger that each man had. And honestly, I didn't know what I was expecting, but I was blown away by what I experienced. They worshiped with everything in them. They sat on the edge of their seats, soaking in each word that Walt and I spoke to them. Their spiritual hunger is what stuck with me the most. These men, they weren't convicts. They were committed, growing, thriving men of God. After the service, it was a great service, and we got a chance then to do a second service after that one in a second facility, and I'll share with you about that service right after the break.
Yep. You're listening to the Mantour Guy Podcast.
Attention all men in the New York area. You don't want to miss our second annual New York Man Tour. This year, our New York Man Tour is going to be on September 14th at Central Assembly of God in Horseheads, New York. Join us as the New York District Superintendent, Dr. Dwayne Durst, brings a powerful main session message with us before we break up into 3 powerful workshop sessions. And then we're going to close with a great final session together. It's going to be a challenging, great time for the men of all ages in the New York area, and you don't want to miss it. So plan now to join us in Horseheads, New York on September 14th at Central Assembly of God for the New York Mantour.
For Mantour conference dates and locations, visit mantourministries.com.
I know you're gonna dig this.
Like what you're hearing? Head over to iTunes to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Thanks.
Hey guys, Jamie Holden here, the Mantour Guy. And so often men tell me that they can't afford to use Covenant Eyes. And my immediate response back is, dude, you can't afford not to use Covenant Eyes. For 53 cents a day, you can protect every computer, every laptop, every tablet, and cell phone that you and your family own from the trap of internet pornography. I tell them for 53 cents a day or $16 a month, you can make sure your little girls never stumble onto pornography as she uses Snapchat or does any internet searches while doing her homework. For 53 cents a day, you can make sure your son never falls into the trap of pornography or even sees it accidentally while online. I say for 53 cents a day, you can protect your wife from getting trapped in the trap of internet porn and protect your marriage. And I tell them for 53 cents a day, you can help break the cycle of internet pornography that's been holding in your life. Guys, you and your family, and most importantly, your walk with God, cannot afford for you not to use Covenant Eyes. So, head to mantourministries.com and hit the Covenant Eyes button in the upper right-hand corner to get 1 month of free service. Try it out. I know you're going to love it. You're never going to regret it. Guys, do it today. You can't afford not to have Covenant Eyes be a part of your life.
Listen to the Mantour Guy Podcast on the go via Apple Podcast and Google Play. Thanks.
All men want one thing in life, to be remembered. The good news is we all have a legacy. This is the question though, will you leave behind a good legacy or a bad legacy? Learn how to create a godly legacy in Mantour Ministries' book, Legacy, Living a Life That Lasts. By reading the stories of godly men from the Bible, working through the study questions, and taking up the legacy challenges at the end of each chapter, you'll be well on your way to living a life that lasts. It also includes a bonus workbook that you can use with your small groups. Order your copy today at mantourministries.com. How will you be remembered?
Order your copy today at mantourministries.com. The Mantour Guy Podcast, helping men grow in their walk with God.
Hey guys, Jamie Holden here. Did you know that only 10% of churches have a healthy, thriving men's ministry? That's only 1 out of 10 churches. Well, my mission is to see this number become 100%. Join me in my work with HEUS Missions to help develop men's ministry in the local church. Become a monthly financial investor in the work God called me to do by going to mantourministries.com/partner and clicking on the Give Online button. Together, we can see God continue to move among men.
Welcome back to the Mantour Guy Podcast.
Get ready for 3 and Out, helping you dominate your fantasy football league.
Well, believe it or not, guys, we are less than a month away from the start of the 2019 NFL season, and I am ready. I've been trying, honestly, to watch some of the preseason games, but man, they are so bad. They're so hard to watch. But anyways, it's almost time for 2019 football, and that means it's time for 2019 fantasy football season. So I'm going to give you 3 quick pointers as you draft or as you tweak your team via waivers or trades. Number 1, if your team is playoff ready, if you were in the playoffs last year, you competed, you have a good, strong roster, then you need to be bold and draft players who may have low ceilings but high floors. Players who have huge ceilings but also have a little bit of risk associated with them. Players who could have huge blowout seasons but maybe have injury prone. Or a rookie who's on a team who you can see the potential is there. Like, for example, Kansas City Chiefs, they drafted a player called Mecole Hardman. He's a wide receiver, and he's basically a clone of Tyreek Hill. And I'm trying to get him when I can because there is so much value there. His ceiling is so high. It may take a little bit of time for him to get there, but my roster is strong enough that I can afford to have him on my bench, waiting for him to develop. And then when he does develop and he does explode, and people go to the waiver wires to grab him, they're going to see he's already on my bench. So see what I mean there? Try and find some players that you can take, that you can stash on your bench, that your team is solid enough that they can survive without that roster spot, but that you can stash in there. Another one is Kyler Murray. I think he's going to have a huge season. And I'm really hoping somebody drafts him in my league before he gets to me, because I just don't think I can pass him up, even though I don't need him. I have two amazing quarterbacks. But that kind of talent, I don't think I can pass it by. I might just put him on my bench if he's still there, although I don't expect him to be that late into the round. But anyways, that's what I'm saying. If you have players who you see a huge ceiling with, but also there's a lot of risk and maybe they won't pan out, if you have a playoff-ready team, you can take that risk and go ahead, take that risk and draft them. Number 2. Now, if you're on the other side of the equation, you have a team that's not that great. You didn't do well last year. You can see your roster's really weak. And you need to do a rebuild here. You need to trust the process, like the 76ers say, and rebuild. If I was you, I'd consider trading your star player, that number 1 player on your team. Trade him to somebody and try and get 2 or 3 good players. So trade an amazing player for 2 or 3 good or great players. So why would you do that? Well, you're rebuilding. And say you have this star player on your bench who can get you 30 points a week, but then you have no other good players in your team that could score for you. If you trade him for 3 really good players who can get you 15, 20, 25 points a week, that's 45 to 60 points, which is, last time I checked, numerically, is more than 30. You're getting more value, more points, because you're getting more roster players filled with good players instead of having one great player and not good players underneath them. So, basically you're rebuilding. Use that star asset to help you do it, to get draft picks, to get players to help you do that rebuild. All right, finally, be smart with your draft picks, guys. I recently was in a 2-round dynasty draft, and the guy who had a second pick, he had second pick in this draft, he drafted, are you ready for this, guys? He drafted a defense. He picked the New England defense. He had so many amazing players available to him, and he chose a defense that I 100% guarantee you would have been free on waivers once the draft was done. Guys, don't use your dynasty draft picks on defense or kickers. Take the best possible players available to you, even if you're rich at that position. Like I said before, Kyler Murray's still there when I'm picking. I'm going to probably have to take him, even though I already have Patrick Mahomes and Baker Mayfield as my quarterbacks. I'll probably still take him, because if he takes off, I can get huge value for him via trade in the future. Don't be stupid with your picks and pick like defenses and kickers and stuff like that, guys. Be smart. I'm encouraging you. That'll kill your team. You're going to be picking first or second again next year because you made a bad choice this year. I have seen guys who've taken that first, second pick, picked a really great player, and they were in the playoffs the next year. Use your picks wisely. And that's this week's 3 and Out. All right, guys, welcome back, as we're once again here with you this week after a long break from our construction project. Just a reminder, construction project is still going on. It's taking longer than we thought, but I am a man of my word, and I said we'd have a new episode this week, so we brought one out for you. But we are going to be doing a repeat again next week, and then a week off for Labor Day, and then once we get into September, we should be good to go with new episodes recorded in our new 401 Ministries, Mantour Ministries office and podcast studio. So I'm really excited about that. But this week, I've been sharing with you about the trip I had to the Federal Correctional Institute in Loretto, Pennsylvania. I went with Pastor Walt Smith, and I already shared with you about the first service we did, and now I just want to continue and end up here telling you about the second service we did. Second service we did was a separate facility. It was still on the grounds of the prison, but it was outside the prison walls in what they called the camp. And it was a separate, lower security facility for men who are on good behavior, low-risk prisoners. And, basically it's the same thing that, the men have a little bit more freedom, but if they try and escape, they get treated just like any other regular prisoner. But it was a little bit lower facility, a little bit more laid back. I didn't see any guards in that facility where we were at. They probably were there, but they weren't visible. But anyways, It was just a more lower security facility for men who were getting ready to be released, who had really good behavior. Anyways, but in this service, just like the first one, I found men who were dedicated and devoted to God. There were men that they were worshiping God. In this service, they didn't have the fancy, top-notch worship. They had a guy with a keyboard who led them, and 2 other inmates sang along. But guys, the power of the Holy Spirit was in that room as these men worshiped God. They were singing at the top of their lungs, every word, hands raised. They were there to worship God and to learn. And once again, I got to share with the men, just like I did in the first service. And, Walt brought the message again, just like the one we got to pray with the men afterwards. And it was just another great service. And this service, when the man was getting ready to be released, he's going to be released actually that week to go back out into free life. And he shared about some of his fears and anxieties, but also what he felt God was calling him to do with his life once he got out of the prison cell. And this man had an amazing vision of how he was going to start a nonprofit to help other inmates reacclimate into society. He had once been a congressman, and he was in prison for corruption, and God changed his heart and his life, and he got into prison, and he was getting out to kind of not go back into politics, but go into discipleship and helping other men. And the men gathered around him, and they prayed, and it was just so great to hear the men talking about their relationship together and how they would work out together, how they would pray and read the Bible together, and just to see the love they had for each other and for this man who was going to be leaving them, and how they talked about, they may not see him again till heaven, but they were always going to be brothers. And it was just so touching and so just amazing to see that even in this horrible circumstance of being incarcerated, how these men had made the best of it with each other and with God, and the real discipleship taking place inside these prison walls. I'll be honest with you, this was a life-changing experience for me going into this prison. Just to see how spiritually hungry these men are, how they gobbled up everything Walt and I shared with them, how just on fire for God they were. It made me want to go back and do it more. And our ministry has 3 outstanding offers from state and federal correctional institutes to hold Mantour conferences inside of prisons. I have opportunities to go to other prisons just to go in and minister like I did here, or go in and share a word, or to reach the men. I honestly believe that's where God's going to be starting to expand our ministry. Not stopping what we're doing. We're going to keep everything we're doing still going, but just another area to reach men. And, I loved it. I would do it again in a minute. And the truth of the matter is, guys, the only reason I have not been able to do this more often, even though I would love to do it, the thing stopping us the most is our ministry's finances. When I travel, to a church or a men's breakfast, I receive honorariums to cover my expenses. But when I go to a prison, I receive no compensation, and I would never expect it or want it. I would be there to serve. But, we also are raising our missions budget, and on our current financial support, the funds aren't there to cover these travel expenses. And that's why, we're always looking for individuals and churches to financially support me and the ministry I do. And when you're a monthly financial supporter, it opens up the ability for me to do more ministry at prisons and at teen challenge centers. And guys, I saw it this weekend. Men in prisons are spiritually hungry. They desire teaching and instruction. And I know my call is to reach men inside and outside the church with the gospel. And I need your help. I need your church's help. I need the help of other men in God to do it. So I just want to give you this challenge as we wrap up here today. Will you talk to your church's board or your missions committee and beg them to take me on for monthly financial support? Will you personally take me on for financial support? I need this help. And, these men or correctional institutions, they need this help. $10, $25, $50, $75, $100, $200 a month, that would be great. But any amount will change men's lives for eternity. Any financial help is a huge blessing to the men inside the facilities and to our ministry. Can you help answer this call? God has been growing our ministry above and beyond anything I could ever imagine, and we need our finances to grow to meet the calling. With this office project we've been doing over the past month, I personally put every cent of my life savings into this office space because I know that God called us to do it. And right now, we are working without a safety net. Your financial support helps us reach even more men, and we can't continue to do this without it. So I am truly excited for what the remainder of the summer and the fall holds. We're going to have a great fall podcast, a great fall ministry. But if you would be able to help us with financial support, we would be grateful. And all of eternity, there'll be men's lives changed because of what you do to help us financially. So thank you for believing this ministry, and please keep praying for us, and please continue to support us.
The Mantour Guy's final thought.
A few quick things as we're getting ready to wrap up here. Like I mentioned a couple times, we will be doing one more under construction podcast next week, a repeat, and then we're going to take a week off for Labor Day. Have a great Labor Day holiday with your family as you get ready to wrap up summer and head into fall. I can't believe that's where we are already, but we are. Also, remember, on September 14th, we have our New York Man Tour. All men in the New York area. We are going to be in Horseheads, New York, at Central Assembly of God for the New York Man Tour. We have the New York District Superintendent for the Assemblies of God, Pastor Dwayne Durst, is going to be leading the main session. We have great workshop speakers. You do not want to miss that, guys. You can get more information at mantourministries.com. You can find out our books and our resources as well at mantourministries.com. But guys, as we close here today, once again, I want to thank you for listening, for giving us your time today to listen. I'd love it if you took a second and shared this podcast to the social media accounts so people can hear about what God is doing inside of our correctional institutes. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a 5-star rating and review on iTunes and Apple Podcasts, Google Play. The more 5-star ratings and reviews we receive, the more men we can reach. Also, like I said, visit mantourministries.com. But guys, I just wanted to say thank you so much for sticking with us through this construction project. Continue to pray for us, pray for my asthma, pray for the room to get completed. Pray for the ministry and our finances as we move forward. And guys, I can't wait to be with you in the fall to bring you all new episodes of the Mantour Guy Podcast to help you continue to grow in your walk with God. So thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time on the Mantour Guy Podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Mantour Guy Podcast. Be sure to visit mantourministries.com to learn more about our books, men's ministry resources, and our Mantour conferences.
Hey guys, Mantour Guy Jamie Holden here. Are you looking for a speaker at your church or for your men's breakfast, your next men's event, men's retreat, or men's conference? Well, why not bring me in to speak? God has been moving among men as I've been sharing an encouraging word of freedom and victory. We're seeing lives change, men being saved, people being set free, and guys, chains are being broken. So if your church has hurting men and women, contact me to come share this encouraging word of hope and victory to help you grow in your walk with God. One more thing before I wrap up this week, guys. You need to head to covenanteyes.com and sign up today to protect you and your loved ones from the many traps awaiting you on the internet. You know, I am a Covenant Eyes user. I just signed my 69-year-old father up and put Covenant Eyes on his phone and his laptop. I believe in it. It's an amazing tool that helps you stay pure online. Guys, I encourage you to try it today. If you use the code MANTOR, you get 30 free days. That's 30 free days. What do you have to lose? So head to covenanteyes.com, try it today. Like I said, what do you have to lose, guys?
The Mantour Guy Podcast, helping men grow in their walk with God.